Today we have a few things from the garden to get processed and preserved. We have some string beans that we need to pressure can, blackberries that we need to juice, and we also have onions that we're going to process and get in the freezer. So let's finish hanging these clothes and we'll take a quick look at the new baby ducks. Then we'll head inside and get started. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is get the string beans started. I have already washed these. This will be the third time putting them in some water, rinsing them off. And I'm going to start filling my jars. I'm just going to fill 7 jars with these green beans that are room temperature. My jars are room temperature. And the water in my canner is room temperature. You could do a hot or raw pack. I'm doing a raw pack. The directions do say to have your jars hot and everything, but I skip that because by the time I fill these up, these jars are no longer hot. So I've gotten to where I just start with everything room temperature. My go-to book is the Ball Blue book. I've had one for, I don't know, between 10 and 15 years that I used for a reference for canning and recipes. And I recently got the updated version. And most of the information is still about the same in it. But I figured it would have any updated information for canning. And I recommend you getting a good canning book. It's great to watch YouTube and get other people's knowledge, but also get a good canning book so you know what the rules are too, you know for yourself. You don't have to take the word of anyone else. And I love watching people can, and I'll learn tips and tricks from that, but I do want to know the basics for myself. And as far as the type of green beans we grew this year, these are Contender. We grew these 2 years ago. They made enough for 2 years. Before that, we were growing Blue Lake, and those did great for us for many, many years. And then the seeds just, I don't know if they were mixed up with other seeds, but it happened 2 years in a row. We planted Blue Lake beans seeds, but that is not the crop of beans that came up. So after 2 years of that, we decided to find a different variety. And so far, we've been loving these. Like I said, 2 years ago, we put up enough for 2 years. That's my goal this year, but my string beans have really slowed down. So I don't know. I think we're up to about 65 quarts canned already. So we'll see. My goal is 100. That'll get us through 2 years. And before we did that 2 years ago, we just put up enough for a year. I never really considered putting up enough for 2 years. But my children are grown, and I guess I have more time and energy for all that. And the reason why we'd like to put up enough for 2 years is so we can take a year off of green beans. Last year, not having to plant and take care of them and harvest them, that was a nice break to focus on something else. And I'm just adding water from my water filter. And we're leaving 1 inch of headspace in these. Have to get the air bubbles out. You want to run preferably something plastic or wooden down in here, but I have this little wooden thing, but it was not strong enough. So I'm back to my trusty little butter knife. They do not recommend using anything metal. I think that is because it could scratch or cause cracks in your glass. I do have some breakage sometime. I think everybody does. I don't think it's related to that, or I wouldn't keep doing this. You can get this little canning kit, and it comes with the funnel, lid magnet that you pick the lids up out of the water with, and it has a plastic tool in it. And I had one of those, but I do not know where it's went to. So, have to use what I have. And this is what I have today. Now we're wiping the rims with a wet paper towel. Just make sure there be nothing there to affect your seal. I like using wide mouth jars for things like this that you really have to pack in there. I will use regular mouth if I don't have wide mouth, so it's not like an unbreakable rule or anything. All right, and I'm just turning my canner on. There's about 1 inch of water in this. We're gonna put the rings on. And like I said before, everything's room temperature. I always look through this little pipe thing to make sure there's nothing stuck in there. I've never found anything stuck in there, but I always look. Let me get my lid on, and we're gonna wait for steam to start coming out of that same little pipe, and then we'll go from there. While we're waiting for that to steam, I'm going to continue filling these jars. I'm not going to have enough for a whole load, but I'm going to can what I have anyway. I would just cook them for supper, but if I'm honest, everyone here is tired of eating string beans. I want to clear up everything out of the sink so I can use it to get my onions ready to be chopped to go in the freezer. One of the other reasons that I like to use room temperature everything is so this next batch, I don't have to wait, heat the jars and fill them once that's done. I will go ahead and have these ready to go in the canner. I will dump that water out of the canner and add cold water to it. So that way I can have all my beans ready. If I had 3 loads to do today, well, I will go ahead and put them all in jars now and have them on the counter waiting to get ready, so I could be done with this end of it. I have these blackberries frozen. I've already done 1 gallon into juice that I made into popsicles, and they were so good. That is what I'm going to do with the rest of these. I have a few fresh from this morning. And this is really the end of our blackberries this year. Outside of what we ate fresh, we were able to get about 2 gallons, which I thought was really good. But I got to wait to get some water out. My filter is filtering. I used most of the filtered water on my string beans, but we're going to simmer these a little bit and get some juice out of them. While we're waiting, see, we've done that, and the canner is still not steaming yet. So that's why I do not mind canning, because there is some hands-on work, but most of it's kind of just waiting. So you have time to do all kind of other stuff. So I have these onions. I've been kind of picking through some, and you can see how it's flat on one side. It's because my drying rack wasn't big enough, so I put them on the porch. Don't do that. Obviously, they can't do that. So that's the flat thing. But anyway, if I see any out there that look like they're getting soft or they're not going to store very long, then I go ahead and take them off. And I did clean these up outside. You know, I cut the roots off and the top off, and any paper that wanted to come off out there, I took it off out there. And I froze some, an egg I found this morning too while I was outside. I was going to say, I froze a few bags, a few quarts. I think I got maybe 6 quarts frozen already. And they're not full. I press them flat. So it won't be like a big, huge thing of onions that I can't just break loose in case I don't want to use the entire bag. And I hope that works because, like I said, this is the first year that I've grown enough onions to put up. I have bought onions in the past and freeze-dried them, made onion powder, and just used them freeze-dried. But I wanted to put some in the freezer, and I probably will freeze-dry some of these, but we're just getting started on them. So we're freezing them first. And at first, all I'm going to do is just cut any bad spots I see off. I forgot I had some onions in the refrigerator as well. I'm going to do those first because when I read up on onions making you cry when you cut them, it says that if you put them in the refrigerator for, just a couple hours, that it will help with that. And I forgot about that until I cut that first one and I started the whole eye burning thing. So it's definitely worth a shot. We'll see. And I'll let you know. Well, I will say the onions out of the refrigerator were better, but definitely doesn't work 100%. Oh, my eyes are burning. Okay, I'm going to take a break from that for a second. And our beans have not started steaming yet, so we'll just keep doing some other things while we wait. Well, I'm sure putting these in the refrigerator did no good because they were only in there for like 5 minutes. But the ones I had in there from yesterday, that did help. It was, they're the same variety, came from the same place. And I did one onion and my eyes were burning, before I got the ones out of the refrigerator. So I would say that may help. Doesn't prevent it, but it could help. Maybe standing way back might also help. We'll see. And that's why I'm not cutting them right now either, because I know that is going to release more of whatever makes your eyes burn like that. So trying to do as little cutting as possible at this stage. This one almost looks like garlic because it's got that second one on there and it was all in the same paper. It's kind of neat. And I did do a little short video on our onions. It shows some footage of them in the garden, some of me pulling them up, and the drying area that we have for them. And I just talked about how this was the first time we ever grew onions of any size and what we did different this year and where we bought them from and things like that, if you're interested in that. Maybe putting all these little cut pieces in this container with the cover on it is also helping. I don't know, but I'm having a little better time as far as my eyes not watering. Don't really want to say anything. Don't want to jinx it. I thought that one felt weird. It feels not really squishy, but look, it's like hollow. It's missing some rings. Starting to see just a little bit of steam come out the canner now. I'm going to let it steam a little more than that before I set my 10-minute timer. Okay, I see a good bit of steam coming out now, so I'm going to go ahead and set a 10-minute timer. And I'll try to get y'all over here so you can see the steam. Alexa, set a 10-minute timer. You can kind of see the steam there coming out of this. This is what you're looking for the steam to come out of, not this, but this pipe right here. And we're going to let that do for about 10 minutes. I'm not sure what happened with my microphone here, but basically I'm saying it's steamed for 10 minutes, and now we're going to put our weight on it and wait for the pressure to come up to 10 pounds. So our pot is up to 10 pounds of pressure. We're going to set a 25-minute timer.
25-minute timer started.
Okay, and I'm just turning this down to about medium, and I'll just try to regulate it and keep it around 10, but if it goes over, I'm not super mad about that. I just do not want it to go under. Before I get started chopping the onions, I'm gonna stop for a minute and make me a little something to eat. And I definitely want to stay right around the kitchen, keeping an eye on my pot. And I'm eating an avocado, cucumber from our garden, and I didn't cut the avocado on the cutting board because I just didn't want it to make such a mess. You know how avocados are kind of like butter. And I'm going to add a little cottage cheese. I got this cottage cheese. I might have already put this in a video, but I like it so much. I have to comment on it. It doesn't taste like any cottage cheese I've ever bought before. It's not watery, and I don't know, it's just got a different taste to it. Very good. Salt, pepper, and smoked paprika. That's what I'm going to put on there. And this smoked paprika, I just like it on everything. It is so good. So I'm going to go sit down at the table, eat this, and keep an eye on my pot. And we'll come back and do the blackberries and onions. So good. We got a little over 2 minutes left, and our gauge is just a tad bit over 10 pounds. So I'm happy with that. Now I'm going to add some water to my blackberries. And we're just going to turn those on like medium. And some of those are still frozen, so we're just going to leave those there. Alexa, timer off. Okay, so that's the timer for our beans. I'm going to cut the eye off, and we're going to leave everything just like it is. While we wait on the pressure to come down off the beans naturally, we're going to do the onions. So I already set up everything over here. I'm using this attachment on my KitchenAid. I have never used it before, the dicing one, until the other day when I did the onions, and it did an amazing job. So that's how we're going to do these too. The only problem I have is getting the attachment on here and tightening it up good. But other than that, this will definitely be the way that I do any kind of chopping from here on out. That is all the onions. I'm going to get this cleaned up, and then we will get them in bags and freeze them. So I marked my bags, onions, and the month and the year. And I'm just filling them up about halfway. And there is a lot of juice in the bottom of this, so I'm going to go back and add a little bit of what's in the bottom of this to each bag. And we are still waiting for the pressure to come completely off of our string beans. And our blackberries aren't really boiling yet. So I just turned those up a little. So hopefully they'll be about ready when we are done with the onions. Instead of having them like that, I'm going to have them flat like this. And you could lay these on a cookie sheet if you wanted to, but I'm fine with just putting them in another freezer bag, a bigger freezer bag, because onions and garlic are pretty smelly. I'm going to double bag these. And that probably helps them keep a little better in the freezer too, but mainly my reasoning for that is because they're smelly. I'm hoping I can just break some off if I don't want to use the whole bag, and chances are I'm not going to want to use all these onions at one time. This is probably about 3 cups of onions. But I also don't want to freeze them in a bunch of individual bags either. So this is how I am doing it. And my thinking with this too is if they're in there for a year and I don't use them all, I can pull them out and freeze dry them. And then I can use them, you know, they'll just store pretty much indefinitely like that. And that way I don't, you know, then I don't have to worry about them going bad if I do not use all of these, say, by the time, hopefully, I make onions again next year in the garden. Then I will just freeze dry them if I haven't used them all. And I thought I would just pull a bag out and see what these look like. I froze these, I think, day before yesterday. But yeah, they probably would have did a little better if I did them on a cookie sheet, but they're fine. I don't have a lot of room in my freezer to lay cookie sheets to lay these flat. So I think that's great. And the blackberries are boiling now. I'm going to turn them down. I'll bring you over here. They smell so good. I'm just going to cut those off because that's about all I need. And I'm going to run them through my little thing that I use for juice. You can see that the gauge is all the way down to 0, but this little flap back here is still up. So when that goes down, then we'll know the pressure is all the way off the pot. Now you can see this little flap is down. So I'm going to take my weight off. And we're just going to kick that up so some of the hot air can come out. And we're going to leave it like that for about 10 minutes. While we're waiting for the pot to cool down for about 10 more minutes, I'm going to strain the blackberry juice. Ooh, I'm going to put on an apron because this will stain your clothes. Sometimes I remember my apron and sometimes I don't. I should have had it on all day, but I didn't. Just turn this little wooden, whatever it is, stick. What do you call it? I'm sure there's a name for that. Anyway, you just spin it around until you get all the juice that you want to get out of it. And I will not do it to where it's super dry because it will push some of the seeds through. And that's what I'm trying to get rid of is the seeds. I have a juicer. I could have ran this through the juicer, but this is how my grandmama always did it. to make jelly. This is actually her little thing here. So I guess I do it this way because she did it this way. And I enjoy the process of doing it this way. Last year we did blackberry syrup, and I have lots of that left. So I don't want to do any more of that. And then we don't have any blackberry jelly back there, but we have tons of other kind of jams. So I don't really want to make any more jam or jelly right now. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to put this in the freezer, and when I'm ready to make more popsicles, I'm going to pull it out because they are delicious. I did them with lemon, blackberry juice, lemon, and honey, and they're just really good. We all liked them except for my older son. He's in his junk food era right now, so they're just not sweet enough or, bad enough for him. But anyway, the rest of us like them. And we still have some back there, but I needed to make room in my freezer, so I pulled these out. And that's all I'm going to do on these because I don't want the seeds. I really love blackberries and the flavor, but I do not love the seeds. I had to go outside and dump the onion scraps on our compost pile because I'm going to put my blackberry juice in this. But it is really hot right now, so I'm going to sit it over here and let it cool. Oh, and our 10-minute timer went off for our string beans. So as soon as I'm just going to take the lid all the way off now. And as soon as I get this cleaned up, I'm going to take those jars out and take the jars out of the pot and put the next batch in. And that's what's left of our blackberries. The chickens will love those. I don't like seeds, but they love them. Okay, we're going to take these out now. The canning books do tell you not to tighten the rings up if they're loose. That's something that I do. I don't know. I just don't feel right about leaving them loose. It's supposed to mess the seal up. Like it could mess your seal up, but it's not ever messed mine up that I know of. Sometimes you just have one that doesn't seal. And that just happens sometimes. I don't really think that's why, but if I see one visibly loose, I feel like I need to tighten it up. Okay, so this water is hot. I'm going to dump this hot water out. And I'm putting cold water in here. By the time I get about an inch in there, it'll be room temperature like the rest of everything else, the string beans and the jars and all that. You can hear my jars popping. Love that sound. Yep, I'm just feeling that to make sure that it does feel just room temperature. Oh, and I should mention, I have a vent right here where I'm standing. So that's why I'm pushing I'm not having them out here because I don't want that cold air coming up on these hot jars. Look through the hole there. Oh, see the light. And put it on. And start the process all the way over again. We'll let this little pipe vent for 10 minutes. Then we'll put our weight on it. We'll wait for it to get to 10 pounds of pressure. We'll set our timer for 25 minutes. And then once the 25-minute timer goes off, we will cut the heat off, let this come down naturally, let the pressure come off naturally. And then once the pressure's off naturally, kick the lid up a little bit, 10 minutes, and then you come back and take the lid off for 10 more minutes if you want to, and then pull them out and they're done. I do stick to the rules about the venting and letting it cool, you know, kicking the lid up and stuff like that, because for a few years there, I did have trouble with water loss, siphoning. And after I researched and talked to some canning elders, they had some good advice, and that was some of it. And once I stopped doing that, sometimes, you know, you would release the pressure, not let it come down naturally, and not give it time to cool because you're ready to put that next batch in. Well, anyway, once I started sticking to those rules, I do not have the water loss that I used to have. Sometimes it would be half gone in my jars. So anyway, just wanted to mention that. And the last thing I'm going to do today with y'all is I'm going to mix up some hummingbird food. I mixed up some yesterday, so there's a tiny little bit left in my pitcher, but I never got around to doing the rest of it. And I put out about 10 feeders because I found the more feeders, the more birds. And I've also found the older I get, the more I love hummingbirds. Okay, I know you can buy the pre-made stuff, but ooh, Lord have mercy, I would go broke if I tried to do that with all these feeders that I have. So what I do, in any recipe, you can find this online 1,000 different places. I'm sure that's where I found it for myself to use. But 1 part sugar, 4 parts water. So whatever part you are using, I'm using a 2-cup measuring cup because I need a lot. And that's it. I just use hot water out the tap. I used to put it on the stove and melt it like that. That just dirties up another pot because the sugar will melt in the hot water out the tap. But this works fine. Our hummingbirds are healthy and happy. So this is the way I use it. I don't put any red food coloring in it. There's red on my hummingbird feeders, and that seems to be enough to attract them. I do have one feeder that is not red, and I will say that that one does not get eaten like the ones with red on it. I actually moved that one up by my bees so they could have, if they needed some sugar water or whatever. This time of the year is not as much stuff blooming. So I just put that one up there. And I do see hummingbirds up there. But anyway, just comparing it to the ones around the house, you know, that would be the last one to go empty. Okay, well, I'm going to go out only to fill up these feeders because, y'all, it is hot as hell out there. That's the only word for it. It's really hot. What time is it? It's about 10 minutes till 2. So you don't really see me outside, but in the early morning and in the evening this time of the year, because it's supposed to be, let's ask Alexa. Alexa, what's the heat index today?
The heat index today is 107 degrees.
107.
It's quite hot out there.
Yeah, it is. 107 heat index. Now the temperature, that probably means the temperature is like 99, not near as hot. And humidity is so bad here. But anyway, it's just the season that we're in, and that's fine. There's things to do in the house during the heat of the day. But I'm going to run out, fill up my feeders, and I'll finish this can of beans. And the blackberry juice, once it's cooled, I'm going to put it in this. So I'm going to store it in my freezer probably for about a week. And then I'm going to make some more of those cool pops because they were delicious. So that's it for me and you today. Thanks so much for joining me, and we'll see you next time.